Hey y'all. So, for some reason, my microphone decided to not record my track during this interview. And so I tried to use the audio from the Zoom just for my voice, but that got way too confusing to edit. So, this entire interview is with the Zoom audio. I did my best, so I'm sorry for the bad quality, but we had a lot of fun anyways, and I hope you enjoy. Okay.
What up?
Hi.
Okay.
Nice to meet both of you.
You too.
Yeah,
Kick us
nice to
off,
meet you
Mariah.
too. Okay, are we gonna
Yeah, do
we're
our
starting the
intro.
recording? All
Oh,
right. So
shit.
we got to press record, silly. Did you forget how this podcast works?
Apparently
Okay.
so.
Cool.
Good morning, Agents of Nothing, and welcome to our Agents of Shield podcast. We are your commanding officers. I'm Mariah.
And I'm Caroline.
And today we interrupt your usual programming to bring you a very special episode. Not a normal episode, it's a cool episode. Today we are interviewing Tina, the social media manager for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from seasons 2 through 6.
Yeah, Tina!
Woohoo!
Hi.
Woo!
It's so good to
Nice to
have you
meet you
on.
both. Thank you.
Welcome.
It is so nice to be here.
So, if you would just go ahead, introduce yourself, explain your relationship to the show, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Cool. So, my name's Tina, and I worked on social media for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from seasons like 2 through 6-ish. I worked with a team of it fluctuated through the years, so it was generally between 3 and 4 of us.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
But basically, kind of how it worked was, I was the one who was primarily in charge of writing copy and doing the actual posts, and I would go on set a lot, and I would work with we had a creative director and another manager above me, who were kind of my two they were on the show from start to finish. And the three of us were very much like the Shield clique. And then we had at one point we had a coordinator come in, and we had kind of rotating other people that worked on the show through the years. So definitely don't want to take all the credit, but I will
Gotcha.
take all the credit for almost everything that was posted. Specifically, I really started to take ownership of the social and the copy starting season 3, but I helped starting season 2. And then when they were oh wait, Tina, you're a fan of this show. You're good at writing for this show. Here is the show. Here you go. So
Yes.
Cool.
and that's kind of the first thing is that first and foremost, I'm a huge fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I was a fan of the show before I started working on it, which was
That's so
why
cool.
I had such a blast working on it, because I was oh my god, it's my favorite show. I get
Yes.
to go to the
That's
set and
awesome.
yeah, it
That's
felt
the dream.
right, it felt just being a fan, and then I'm oh my god, I'm getting paid to be a fan. I mean, a lot of it was really hard
Imagine.
work, but it was, but of all the shows that I ever worked on, Shield has always been my number one favorite. That was not a secret to anyone working at ABC at the
Yeah,
time. So
that's so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I love that. Were you the person, because I know that they would do the live tweeting during the episodes. Would you be the one replying to fans and stuff?
That was me.
We have probably spoken before then.
We've probably
Ah!
spoken before. Yay. Yeah, I did so I was the only person that did live tweeting from seasons 3 to I think 5, and then around season 6, I just so obviously Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't the only show I worked on, and around season 5, I got a lot of other work on my plate, and I was I love live tweeting Shield, but I physically
Can't do
cannot manage
it.
all of the work. Because the other thing too, I think around season 6, so the as you guys probably know or remember, the time slots of Shield would shift quite a
Yeah.
bit. So the show for a long time was on at 9/8 Central, which on the Pacific Coast, which is where I live, was 6 p.m.
Oh
So like
God.
even when I was like normally tweeting the show, that was technically like after hours. And we're all salaried, so like we don't get paid overtime. You just
Right.
like, I volunteered to do it because I was like, I love Shield. And then they moved the time slot to 10 p.m., which is then like 7 o'clock. So then you start like live tweeting the show at 7, and the show is an hour. And then after that, you also have to like, I guess insider secret, we actually live tweeted on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, because like, unless it was like a very, very special episode, like I think I might have actually live tweeted the West Coast for like the 100th episode and like some of the other like major milestones. But on the West Coast, I would literally like take some of my tweets from like earlier in the evening that were live. Like if I tweeted a GIF of Fitzsimmons at 6:12 p.m., I would take that GIF and I would write different copy for it, and then I would schedule it for the West Coast at 9:12 p.m.
Oh my God.
So I was like I was live tweeting, but I wasn't actually live tweeting on the West Coast because I needed to sleep.
Yeah.
That's totally understandable.
Oh man.
But I wanted the fans to like have something that was like a little bit different on the West Coast. And the thing about like tweeting East Coast versus West Coast is that obviously like there's a larger like consumer base on the East Coast. And also like if you're on Twitter on the West Coast time, like you might see some people like retweeting leftovers from the East Coast and that kind of thing. So like there isn't as much of like a spoiler rule, because you kind of like when you live on the West Coast, you kind of know. And this was also back in the days like when Twitter was actually like chronological. So it wasn't as much like now it's a bit different, and the way that you approach something like that has to be different so that you're not like totally spoiling everything for everyone. But and even at the East Coast, like there were a couple of things that like I couldn't always like talk about or say, just in case like we really wanted to keep something secret for the West Coast. Not that like the East Coast fans, like, you know, it's the internet. Like, I'm of the mindset that like if I really don't want to be spoiled by something, I won't go online. But you know, we tried to be as courteous as we could in some aspects.
Absolutely.
I know, Carolyn, like I know that you haven't seen the whole series yet, so I also want to be mindful of like how much I spoil.
Thank you.
In our conversation.
So I gave her a heads up on like the two main things about Sky that happen in season 2 that are like going forward. That's a big part. So she knows about the powers, and she knows Daisy.
I was gonna say her name is Daisy. That was a trip, because like, you know, I had to tweet with her as Sky for 2 seasons, and then they're like, by the way, never say the word Sky again.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean Marvel has a lot of rules, and we were very like cognizant of what we can say, and as soon as she became Daisy Johnson, Marvel was like, cool, so please don't reference her as Sky like again. Like we don't really want to do a callback. We want to establish that like her name is Daisy now, and we will only be referring to her as such.
As a fan, that was so jarring for me at the time, and especially like my dad, I think he was in his like 50s already at the time that it was airing. And like he was always calling Caroline Carolyn to begin with. So like he was like, Daisy? They're just gonna change her name in the middle of the show? Daisy?
And that's the thing, and that's also why like in marketing it was like so important for me to never talk about her as Sky, because it was so like like it was weird for me as a copywriter, because I'm like trying to make like puns about the sky, and then they're like it's Daisy now, and I'm like,
Never again.
all right, I guess I
All
can
right.
work with that.
Come up with some botanical jokes.
Right.
Got
Come up
it.
with some botanical jokes. Yeah, we're in bloom. Like, did I ever use that? I hope I used that. I don't know if I did, but
Man.
I do remember, like, at the time, I as it was airing was around like the time I got my first like job, and so sometimes I would have to work while it was. Is my microphone not recording? Has it not been recording this whole time? I swear
Stop
to God.
it.
oh no, I hope not.
I think it hasn't. Oh, that's fun. That's a
Oh,
fun
no.
time.
Oh
All right. Yeah, I guess my audio is just gonna have to come from the Zoom. That's gonna be
Okay.
fun to edit. Oh
All
well,
good.
we're
It's all
giving
good.
up.
no. It's okay. Things happen. Believe me, things happen.
Well, as I was saying, anyways, when I would have to work the night, I would not check my phone like on my break. I was like, no Twitter, no
Mhm,
Tumblr,
mhm.
and
Yep.
then like I would watch the episode as soon as I got home, because I mean I'm fully a child of the internet.
Oh
I was
yeah.
not gonna go to bed without going on Tumblr. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah.
Obviously.
Oh yeah. No, that's the look, I'm still that way. I'm still that way. Like, I know that you can like, we made sure to tag every single like tweet with hashtag agents of shield. Wow, I can't talk.
Yeah.
So that like if people wanted to mute the hashtag for, like, if they were West Coast or something, like they could, or if they just couldn't watch that week or whatever, they could totally mute the hashtag. But like, I have never met a person in my life who has ever muted a hashtag. The people who are like really into stuff have just been like, I'm just not going to go online until I see it.
Mhm.
And to be fair, like at ABC anyway, and especially towards the beginning of the show, like streaming platforms were not as big as they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the impetus, like the goal was really, please watch this live.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
why we put so much effort into like the live tweeting and all of that stuff, because like, it's fun to like engage with the fans, but also it's kind of like a fun thing of like, hey, if you watch the show live, like you can also like hang with us, and
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
there was like a really fun like live tweeting community. Like, we would trend like worldwide like almost every week for a while, and that was like really exciting and amazing.
Yeah.
So it was, I miss the fans so much.
And like it's crazy how active the fan base still is. Like
Yes.
and like we've been blown away by just the response to us. Like I did not expect us to have the audience that we have in this short amount of
Yeah.
time. We're not even done with season 1 yet, and
Ah,
it's insane, you
Yeah.
know. The
well, it's a
small but
great
active fan
podcast.
base. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, and that's like the whole thing. Like, Shield has always had just like, even like with viewership numbers kind of going like up and down, like there've always been this like core set of fans that have just been like, these are our people. Like they were, and everybody on the show knew it. Like they really were so excited by the fans and like loved all of the interaction, and like it was so good.
So, in what ways did your role like change as the season went on, and the expectations of social media just in like the relatively short period of time that you worked on it, like the landscape of that changed a lot. So how did your job evolve as the landscape did?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, the thing is, I think like I guess the easy answer and kind of the more boring answer is like, the streaming landscape changes and shifts business goals. So like, where in like season 1 and 2, the ratings that the executives are really caring about really are those like live ratings. And then it kind of, like, as ABC and Hulu are in a big partnership like later on down the line. And then we're like, okay, C3 numbers are the thing, which mean, I know that that's like a really weird
I have
technical
no
term.
idea what that means.
Actually, for everybody listening out there, C3 numbers still are important. And I don't really know why, because I think that the landscape like is moved beyond C3, but a C3 number basically means a live rating plus 2 additional days of streaming through through an official source. So like if you stream on
Oh.
Hulu, if you stream on like abc.com or like the ABC app or any other like legitimate form of streaming that can be like tracked back to a network, that number is like estimated by Nielsen, and that number becomes the number by which a network will look at it and be like, okay, this deserves another season, or yeah, no, we're going to cut our losses.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so it is like those numbers were like it's very weird because like the ratings for Shield would like constantly fluctuate.
Yeah.
But I think like Shield ended up being one of those like flagship shows where like it was the very first Marvel television show, and I think Marvel really cared about it a lot, especially towards like the earlier seasons, and they really like, I think like ABC and Marvel definitely like wanted to make it into kind of a priority for the network. And even when the ratings like in later seasons like weren't as high, I think that there was still kind of that like understanding of like, this is kind of a legacy for us. We're gonna like end it when we want to end it. And I was actually like shocked towards like the end of like season 6 that it got a season 7. Like I really thought that season 6 was gonna be like the last season, and then we announced like on the same day that it had been picked up for both season 6 and 7. And
I do remember that.
I was shocked actually.
Wow.
Like I obviously like love the show, would never want it to get canceled. I didn't think it would make it 7 seasons, and it's like a true testament really to the fans that were like so into it that it did. So
yeah, because it was one of those rare shows that like I think only the very last season didn't have 22 episodes, right? Like it stayed like a long TV show for longer than like any of the other series.
Yeah. And so like I guess in terms of like how the social media evolved and things like that, like obviously like earlier seasons, and this is not like to say that ABC didn't like the show or whatever. This is common for like every single TV show to ever exist, but like earlier seasons generally get like bigger budgets than later seasons in terms of marketing, because by the time you're in like a season 5, 6, 7, like people either are watching or they're not watching. Like it's really rare that you're gonna convert a viewer in like season 5 of a show and be like, okay, jump on in.
Lord knows I tried.
Yeah, and it's also, and at the time too, their like Agents of Shield was not streaming anywhere. So like on abc.com or on Hulu, you could watch like a season of like you could watch that season. Like if you decided that you were going to start watching season 4 in the middle of season 4, you could watch like the beginning of season 4 and like catch up. You couldn't watch seasons 1 through 3 anywhere unless you wanted to like buy them on iTunes or something, which like no one did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure some people did, but like that wasn't something that they were telling us to do either. So that, and then like platforms. So like earlier on, like I remember putting a lot of effort into Tumblr like in earlier seasons, and then like which is not to say that like Tumblr wasn't, well actually no, Tumblr wasn't doing as well like later on. And it was basically like let's put more effort into our Instagram, let's put more so it was kind of like it's like playing Tetris, right? Like you have a certain number of like hours in your day, and also when you're working on like 6 other TV shows, even if Shield is your favorite, again I'm going to say that you know, there's still like how do I balance my time and things. So definitely like just different platforms kind of would, you know. And then there was like the whole evolution of like Facebook Live, which I would like to say for the record, on my own, I did the very first Facebook Live for Shield ever, which was the second Facebook Live that had ever been done on the network.
Whoa.
And also, that was like the most stressful day of my career. It was, oh my gosh. I was like, at the time was I had kind of just been hired at ABC, so I was still very new. And it was during season 2, I believe, season 2 or 3, one of those. And like I had never been to the Shield set before, but like the people that I worked with, like of their names are Lauren and Kevin. Lauren and Kevin had gone all through season 1. They were the ones that the cast really knew and were familiar with. And we had like some people from Marvel that would also hang out on set, and they were meant to kind of be like our liaisons. But I had never met any of them either. Like I had talked to them on the phone, like on phone calls, but like I didn't really know who they were either. Yeah. And I don't know what had happened that day, but both Kevin and Lauren were busy. But they had already confirmed with Marvel that we were gonna do the Facebook Live. And they were like, hey, Tina, do you want to go to the Shield set and like do this Facebook Live with them?
Oh my God.
Like, okay. And by the way, I'd never been to any set before, like of any show.
Wow.
Because I was so new. And like no one had done a Facebook Live before because it was like a brand new product at the time.
Wow.
And and I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. And then like you end up, and then you like suddenly find yourself in like the hallway of the Quinjet, and you're like, hi, I'm Tina. I do social media. You don't know me, but I'm looking for Henry from Marvel. And then like suddenly like Clark Gregg like opens the door and he's like, oh, let me go find him. Like, I think I saw him like back there. And then I'm like, oh my God. Like, and then and then Clark is like, oh yeah, Henry's like just over there. Like I'll get him in a sec. I just have to like take a phone call. And then I'm like listening to him like talk to his wife like on his cell phone, and I'm like, oh my God. Like why am I like what
How did your head not explode?
Oh, it did, but like I'm very good at like being like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm like calm and professional. It's like fake it till you make it, but on the inside I am dying.
God.
But yeah, it was a true like fake it till you make it moment, because everybody was like, yeah, so like you're like a social media pro, like you've done this. And I'm like, yeah, no, okay, so we're just gonna do this. Like I think sometimes when I'm like really just I think I just kind of like dissociate to a place where people like want to listen, and I'm like, if I can pretend I'm confident enough that like I know what I'm doing, then people do believe you. And so it was a wild time. I think like Nick and Adrian were still in the cast, and they were really fun. I think at one point like Chloe sang like a Britney Spears song, which like definitely like shouldn't have happened on the Facebook Live, but it did anyway.
Oops.
We're gonna pay the copyright for that later.
Yeah, no, hey, they can't prove it because that live is down now.
Hey,
I just said I think it may have happened. I'm alleging, but it might not
allegedly.
Allegedly. Actually, the funniest part about all the Facebook Lives that we did was that I before we did any of them with the cast, I would be like, hey, just so you know, like we are live, we can't edit this. Please try not to swear. Never worked. It never worked.
Of course not.
And like sometimes we would have like Facebook Lives that like I had like a concept for them, and then the cast would just do like whatever they wanted. Like I think the weirdest one we ever did was season 5, parts of it take place in space. And so I had this idea like, oh, what if we ordered a bunch of like astronaut food from Amazon and like blindfolded members of the cast and had them like try to identify like what food it was they were eating?
Who was the best at it?
Chloe was the best at it, and Jeff Ward took none of it seriously. He was the funniest man to work on that show, Jeff Ward.
I bet. We haven't gotten to him yet, but you're gonna love him, Caroline.
You're gonna love him later. He plays a character named Deke. No spoilers for anything related to him, but
Cool.
He's a fun guy and a fun character. But yeah, they were so like we started off with that, and then I don't know how this Facebook Live like devolved into like at one point, like I think they just kind of like talk about whatever and nothing, and they like talk to the fans. And then at some point, like I don't remember how this happened, but like Ming came on and she was like making jokes with the fans, and then they were trying to get everybody in the cast like in this Facebook Live, but they were shooting with Clark at the time that we were doing this. Like we just weren't going to get Clark.
Yeah.
And Ming was like, "Oh man, Clark can't come by. Like that's so sad." So they literally like off camera, like this while the Facebook Live is happening, went to somebody who worked in props and was like, "Hey, can you like print a giant poster of Clark's body?" And so I'm like at the camera, like trying to like do sign language to the cast, like, please don't talk about that or whatever. And then like Ming comes in from the back. She got somebody on the crew to print a giant poster of Clark and she just like brought it into the Facebook Live. And then suddenly the Facebook Live became about the poster of Clark.
That's amazing.
and that's the kind of thing that like if TikTok were a thing back then, we would have absolutely been viral for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I imagine Ming was probably a liability on those lives.
Oh my gosh, Ming. She was fun. Yeah, she but she was fun. I loved her too. Actually, I think Ming behaved for live. She was a lot more like out there when cameras weren't rolling. But gosh, the one that we could never like control on live. I mean, Chloe like did whatever she wanted. She was so fun. Ian, Ian like would pretend that he never wanted to do anything on social media. But Elizabeth convinced him to do everything. So Ian was a part of like everything we ever did.
Yes.
I do remember he would always just kind of be like, you know.
Oh yeah, he would pretend like he was having the worst time, and yet if he really didn't want to do it, he wouldn't have done it. So he has a very dry sense of humor. He was a fun dude. I've totally like derailed whatever the initial question was.
We're loving this.
I'm having so much fun.
I had so much fun with them.
Was there pressure to go viral at the time? Like I know that there is now for a lot of social media managers.
On smaller brands, there is like a pressure to go viral. On generally like on larger brands, like the expectations that they have of a social media team is to really like be true to what the show is, to engage with the fans consistently, because a lot of like complaints we used to get from like producers of other shows is like, you're not posting enough, you're not doing enough, like, you know, it's that versus like virality, because if they want a lot of views on a video, like a big company can just pay for them.
Yeah.
But obviously when it happens organically, like that's the goal. And so really the goal or the mindset of every social media manager in general should be like, make the best content that you can. And if people respond to it, then amazing. But like, I think when you try to make something go viral, it's never as cool as when like it just does on its own.
So the internet can smell the desperation.
Yeah. No, really, like for us and just like in general working in TV, there were more like expectations from the showrunners of like, hey, this is a big moment. Like I need you guys to like make buzz around like this moment or whatever. And so there was kind of just, you know, speaking really generally, like, okay, like how do we make like the show really wants to go in this direction this season, like how do we warm people up to that idea? And like I remember season 4 being a really interesting season, like marketing wise, because the showrunners basically were like, we're going to do something we've never done before. We're dividing the show into, it's like this season is going to be divided into like 3 different segments. And then the ABC marketing team was like, we should market each like segment of season 4 like its own thing.
Oh.
And so that was really fun, and we got really creative with like how we worked with that.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, the amount of things that happened on Agents of Shield. Like I look back at like the summaries of the seasons and I'm like, wait, that was
one
all
season?
season 4? Wait, no, I could have
Yeah.
sworn that was 3 different seasons.
Well, because season 4, like, not to spoil too much again,
I'll take my headphones off if I need to.
It was like there was like they like titled them differently. Like it was season 4, like first was Ghost Rider, then was LMD, and then was the framework.
Yeah.
And we created like 3 different posters for each thing. We had like different creative. We had like a lot of fun with like, you know, the things that were happening without going too much into it. But, you know, like when we had a special guest star, we made sure to like, you know, give opportunity for him to interact with the fans. And like, it was really cool. Like that was the best season to work on, and also like to watch as a viewer. Like season 4, holy shit, incredible.
I'm still I still my crack ship, well, I don't know if it would be a crack ship since they're on the same show, but I was so mad that Daisy and Robbie never got together.
Oh, that's not even a crack ship. That's just a good ship. I liked them too.
But I think Chloe just has chemistry with everyone.
Chloe does have chemistry with everyone. Like I actually really liked I won't spoil the name, but Lemons, that ship. I would have loved for it to happen. It didn't, but I kind of would have been on board. It would have been super weird, but like very fun.
Yeah, it would have been weird on a lot of levels.
It would have been weird on a lot of levels.
So weird.
In real life, those 2 actors just were such good friends, and they had like such good like chemistry that I was like, hey, if it happens in the show, like I would not be mad. And then it didn't, but it was fine. I did like the final love interest.
Yeah, the end game.
Daisy,
they're sweet.
Yeah, Daisy has a lot of love interests through the show.
As she should.
As she should.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you were there for the infamous lip sync battle between the Agent Carter cast and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast. So, was that something that they came up with on their own, or did like ABC and you guys have a hand in that?
LOL. I was not allowed to be a part of that. They absolutely did it on their own. It was so fun. Well, it was like one of those things where like, so that happened as I was kind of joining the show, but like as a fan, I was very aware of like what was happening. And I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I remember like talking to my bosses and being like, hey, so like when we go on set, like, can we have them do more like dub smash battles? Oh my God, dub smash.
Literally?
An app that used to exist. Talking about how social media has changed. I was like, can we have them do more? Like, how, like, I want to, like, they seemed like they were having a blast with it and all that stuff. Cause that, I think most of them happened at Comic-Con, and I was not at that Comic-Con. But, you know, I was like, guys, we got to do something. My bosses were like, so the cast is like allowed to do it on their own, but like ABC's lawyers have told us like we are absolutely not allowed to do anything with that app.
Oh no.
So and now that like I work for a brand that has a lot more legal restrictions, I understand why, but it does, you know, when you're like wanting to have fun and make cool content, like it would have been fun. But all the credit to the cast, they did everything. They're so funny. They're ridiculous. I love them all.
I couldn't remember. I didn't realize it was Dub Smash until I like looked up the compilation to send to Caroline.
Yeah,
I could have sworn it was Musically, like when TikTok was Musically.
Yeah,
remember
when TikTok
that?
was Musically, I do remember that. Yeah, it was like such a weird time because we were like, I remember when Musically like came out and we were all like, should we buy ads to run on Musically? Like, does anybody use that app? Like, do we think it's gonna go anywhere? And now we're like, woo, wow, did it go somewhere? It did. I mean, TikTok is so fun. Like, I actually think now sometimes about like, man, if TikTok had been around, the things that I would have done with this cast, like, and they probably would have had better ideas than me because they were like all the time, like it was very funny. Like in general, whenever I went to set, I had to come up with like a plan for what we were going to film to give to Marvel, just to be like, hey, just so you know, this is what we're going to be up to.
Yeah.
How many times we actually followed that plan? Almost never, because like we would start filming something and then like somebody like Elizabeth would be like, wait, what if we did this instead? And then I'm like, yep, let's go with that. Let's do it.
Elizabeth, the director.
Elizabeth, the director, and her, and especially Brett Dalton. He was like, you could just give this man like I think at one point I did a video with him, or I wanted to do a video with him, where on Twitter at the time, he was the pun master. This man like would live tweet every episode of Shield and just make the most ridiculous puns that he could during each episode. And so I was like, Brett, you're like the pun master. Can you just like, can we do like a pun, like can we do something where you just like go around set and like make puns about things? And I think Marvel like wanted me to script something just because like they wanted to see whatever it was we were doing. So I wrote like a little like pun script or whatever. Brett Dalton used none of it. This man got on set and he started improving the hell out of everything. He's like, oh, you want puns? Let me give you a hand, and holds up the Coulson hand. And then just went off. Like he did whatever he wanted and it was all gold. And it was, I wish that like we could share outtakes from like some of these shoots, because there was stuff that like we couldn't use and we didn't use, but like he was so fun. So like I never scripted anything for Brett Dalton. He just did whatever he wanted. And it was magical. And there was another time, I think it was the same shoot, where like after he finished pointing out puns on the set, he was like, I want a golf cart. Hey, what if we did like a set tour? And I was like, yep, let's do it. So I got in the like jumped in the golf cart with Brett Dalton. And I think I was laughing so hard that at one point you can like on YouTube see my thumb like cover a portion of the camera, because like I was so like on Facebook it looked nice because we like cut that out, like so pretty, and like Instagram, if it's still there, I don't know. But the YouTube video of that, you absolutely see my thumb in the corner, because I was trying so hard not to laugh at Brett Dalton that took all of my effort away from the actual cinematography of the video. And I'm still embarrassed by that. You can definitely see my thumb on YouTube somewhere.
We're gonna slice that into a TikTok.
We're gonna
like to apologize to the fans. I would like to apologize to the fans that my thumb is in the shot. But Brett Dalton was just doing his thing, and I didn't want to get in the way. And I was trying really hard not to laugh the whole time, and it was really hard.
That's fantastic.
I can't wait to see it.
Something that I was thinking earlier today, because the cast would have been like so good at TikTok.
They would have been so like, good.
I can imagine like, is it season 2 that they go to that other base that used to be like the SSR base? I can imagine them in the it's not a spoiler. It's just a base.
I just want to make sure.
They have a lot of they have a lot of bases.
Okay.
They do have a lot of bases. But I can imagine, you know, the Lady Gaga Beyonce telephone trend that was going around with like the model walks through the hallways. I can imagine them doing that through that base.
Oh yeah, Clark would have done it. Ming would, all of them would have done it. Even Ian would have been. No, you know what would have happened if we had made that TikTok? Clark would have been the first person in it. Chloe would have shoved him out of the way. Ming would like jump in. Elizabeth would take over for a long stretch of it, and then like Natalia would do a choreographed dance. Henry would like wave from the side, and then the last shot would be of Ian doing nothing.
Just standing
like this. That would have been the joke that he would have wanted to participate in.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That cast is just incredible.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite season to work on, or just like your favorite of the show in general?
My favorite to work on and watch was season 4. It was just amazing. But I mean, season 5 was a blast, I think, to work on, because I believe that's the season where Deke is introduced. And like I said, Jeff Ward is the funniest. He, like, the set of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was already like such a fun place. Like, it's really rare actually that you get a cast that all genuinely really like each other, like, and that want to hang out and like do stuff with each other, and like you can see their natural friend chemistry. um it was like, I've worked on a lot of TV shows, and like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by and far is the only one where like everyone was like having a blast the whole time, really.
Aw.
And it's like really rare too when you like change up the cast, like, are they going to fit into like this cool like culture on set? And when Jeff Ward joined the cast, it was just like, oh my God, I wish you were here the whole time. Like, so fun, so funny, like made everybody smile like all the time. It was just like, it felt like kind of a missing actually, no, the cast was great like before too. And like we loved when like Natalia and Henry joined as well, because they were really, really fun, especially Natalia. She was like really great at like volunteering to do stuff and like really like kind of stepping up, and like they were awesome as well. But like, I think when Jeff Ward joined all of them together, it was like, it became this environment where like you could not go anywhere without laughing at him. Like, it was just, it was great. So season 5 was really fun to work on, but to watch season 4.
Right. And going off of that, who is like the funniest or goofiest actor, and who is like the most professional on set?
Oh my God. Who was the funniest? I mean, Jeff Ward was the funniest, followed by like Chloe was very goofy and silly.
ADHD queen.
Yeah. Chloe had a lot of fun. I mean, they all were. The thing is, like, I found Ian to be hilarious, but like he had a very dry sense of humor. Like,
yeah,
he was the kind of guy where like you couldn't, it took a while to like figure out when he was joking, which ended up being like all the time. Like, he almost never was being serious, but like because he was so like dry about everything, you're like, oh my God, did he really say that? And then you're like, oh, he was kidding. He was very, very funny. And just like Elizabeth and Ian together, they're like dynamic. It was very much like not to say that they were romantic in real life, because they absolutely were not. They were just really cool buds, but like Grumpy and Sunshine together. They were very fun. And then who was the most like serious? I mean, Elizabeth is also like fun and goofy like the rest of them, but like, you know, she was good at like reining people in and making people do things. Henry Simmons was probably like, you know, like very much like, I'm here to like do the things, and but he was always like so kind about it. I think like he was one where like we would do stuff with him on social, and he would just be like, am I doing that right? Like, am I doing it okay? Like, just let me know. Like, I'm just, you know, like, he was a bit more like serious on set, but always was like having fun with the cast. And like, you know, like Clark was kind of a leader both like on and off screen. So like he really like, I mean, he was very funny, like, don't get me wrong, but you know, like the cast, like you could tell that like everyone really looked up to him and respected him, even in the cast. He was honestly like, of like people who are like most like their characters, I think Clark is a lot like Coulson in real life. In that like he's fun and personable, and people really like him, but they also really look up to him as kind of a leader.
Oh, that's really sweet. I like that.
Yeah.
And so you said the person who's most like their character. Who do you think is like the least like their character?
Ming Na Wen. Yeah. Ming Na Wen is like the smiliest, happiest, most joyful. Like, she is like in the corner making dirty jokes with the crew. Like, she is like having a blast. Like, she is so like effervescent and bubbly in real life. And then Agent May is like, I'm the cavalry. We're like, we're here to like, we're gonna take you down, Hydra. So like, like she was the one who like, it was so interesting to like watch her film, because it was like a switch being flipped where like she'd be like laughing and having a blast with the crew, and then she would get on that set and like totally different person.
Wow.
Because that, you know, that's her character.
Yeah.
That's
And like
incredible.
she's just such, I mean, they were all such talented actors. But Ming really impressed me. Like Elizabeth, like especially like later on.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, but gosh, everybody on that show really has at least one moment where you're like, wow, that was some acting. Like,
Yeah.
you can see them improve too over the course
Yeah.
of the show. Like when
Yeah.
they really feel like their characters have been more lived in, like you just see so many more sides to them as actors. It's so interesting as a audience member.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a compilation on YouTube of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. scenes that should have won an Emmy or something like that.
Should have. I agree.
Genuinely one of the most like underrated Marvel properties to this day. Like,
Yes. And also the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes.
thank you.
Oh.
I'd like to remind everybody of that.
It's so crazy trying to convince people, like, for some reason in the last couple years even, like there's been this
Yeah.
thing in the MCU fandom where they're like, oh, it's, you know, it's so bad.
It's not
like,
canon.
yeah.
It's not canon. And I'm here to say that according to Loki, it is canon. But nobody wants to have that conversation. Everything's canon. Yeah, no, I genuinely believe that like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is one of the best shows in the Marvel TV universe. I know that they're like, you know, they're the line has been drawn where like the Disney Plus shows are the ones that like officially exist in the MCU, and the others like do and don't at the same time. But I'm also here to say that back in the day, we were told hashtag it's all connected.
Yes.
So that was a thing for us.
That was like the whole
Um,
thing, that this was the very first MCU TV show.
yes. And it look, for a while, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did tie into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just that like it came to a point where the Marvel Cinematic Universe no longer started tying into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then it was like and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like, you know what, we're gonna do our own thing.
Yeah.
Like, didn't happen.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that had to do with like as the MCU got bigger and bigger, like there was more secrecy even from its own other properties.
Totally. And I mean, I think that like, you know, this is total speculation. But you know, like in terms of like business goals, like Disney Plus is like super important to Disney, which is not a secret. And I think that them being able to convince Marvel Studios to be like, look, we will give you like giant budgets, like way more than a network television show could ever afford. Can you make us content? Also plays a role in that.
Yeah.
But for honestly, like, even though it was like a network show, like the special effects and stuff on S.H.I.E.L.D. were pretty good.
Absolutely.
Like, they did some incredible work on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I don't want to like disparage them either. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. is a great show, and it like it really like gets better and better and better as the show goes on. So
that's what I have always said. I have been trying to convince this one to watch the show, like pretty much since I started watching the show. And, you know, it took a podcast to get her in on it. But
yeah, I said, make me famous and then I'll watch it.
But, you know, I like that because like it's really fun to like have those first time experiences. Like I remember like as a part of like my job, you know, I would get to watch the episodes like before they came out. And sometimes like if I saw an episode came in and like they hadn't finished doing the special effects yet, sometimes I'd just be like, but I really want to know what happened. So I would like watch them without the special effects too. And like sometimes I would just like sit at my desk and like I would like there were a few episodes like Spies Goodbye. I was like full on sobbing at my desk, and like people would come up to me and be like, Tina, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm just watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
there was a certain character death at the end of, I think it was season 5, that I literally cried for 2 straight hours. And this was before I was living with my boyfriend, and I called him. I don't know what time it was. I think it was like midnight. I called him. I'm like, they killed him.
Yeah.
But then it was fine.
Yeah.
Then it was fine.
I will say I did know in advance what was going to happen with that. So when I saw that episode, I wasn't as like gutted, but I was still very much like, yeah.
It was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking the way they shot it. Like,
totally.
Anyway, things to look forward to. So many things to look forward to.
So many tears to look forward to. What I have always said is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like the one show, because at the same time that I was watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., my other favorite show was Glee. So
I used to love Glee. I was a big Glee.
They both went off the rails in very different ways.
Yes.
But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the one show I can think of that got better the more off the rails it went.
Yes.
Like every season I was like, how are they going to up the ante next season? Like, how are they going to top this? And they always did.
They always did. And it was so funny too, because like I would, so like for the marketing team, they would always do like a presentation at the beginning of every season to be like, here are the major plot points of like things that are going to happen that we think could be like big moments for you guys to like capitalize on or whatever. And I remember like sitting in these meetings or like listening to these meetings sometimes and being like, how are they going to do that? That sounds ridiculous. And then suddenly they do, and you're like, whoa, that was so cool. Like that was way cooler than they made it out to be in this meeting. Like I really, when they pitched the whole like season 4 is 3 different chunks, I was like, that's going to be so weird and disjointed and it's going to suck. And then it did not at all. It was so good.
So what was your most memorable moment on set during a visit?
That's tough because there were like so many, but I think probably
just list them.
This was okay. I think there is a winner. I think this was during season 6. This is not really a spoiler, but at some point they go to an alien bar, like kind of Star Warsy. And they built this like beautiful alien bar set.
Yeah.
And like I was on set to literally get like happy holidays messages from the cast. Like it was meant to be like a seasonal like thing, because I think like ABC was gonna like push that season or something. Like I don't remember like what it was scheduling wise, but like we wanted to get some like holiday messages from the cast. Mm-hmm. What that turned into was it was Chloe, Ian, Elizabeth, and Jeff Ward. They took over this alien bar and they decided to make themselves drinks. They were like, hey, prop crew, are we allowed to like drink this stuff? And they're like, well, it's not like meant to be edible, but there's nothing in there that'll like kill you. And they were like, great. So these were like prop drinks. And you can watch this video later. But they're all like at the bar. They have these prop drinks, and they are like, it's literally like soda water with like mushrooms and boba tea like balls and like little bits of like greenery. Like it was not meant to be a drink that you drank. It was meant to be set decoration.
Yeah.
But mostly Ian and Jeff, decided that they were going to name all of these drinks and sample them together. And it was literally like, I have like at least like 20 minutes of footage of the two of them with like, I think Chloe got in on it for a bit, but she was like kind of in and out of like a fitting or something. And Elizabeth was there the entire time. She did not drink any of these drinks. She just sat there laughing at them. The two of them were like coming up with names for these drinks and like encouraging the other one to drink them, which mostly were like, it was like Jeff and Ian like spitting these drinks everywhere. Clearly in the days before COVID, they were so disgusting, and all of us were in stitches. Like you can probably hear our laughter like in this video, because we are all like dying just letting them do whatever they wanted. Like at one point they talked about the holidays, but they just did not care. And they were like, so this drink is this, I'm going to call it this. And the two of them are like, they would like, I think like at one point, like Ian like picked out a mushroom and started like throwing it at Jeff. Like they were just goofing, and oh my God, I've never laughed so hard. Like they were so funny. Gosh, I wish, like there's all the footage that like, if we had a TikTok, I'd probably just dump it there. Though sometimes like you do have to get everything like approved by the actors. Like I have a couple of videos that are just like really funny that I showed them to the actors, and they're just like, please don't post that. It's very funny. Don't post it. I'm like, I won't. I promise I won't.
Yeah.
But like, God, that day on set was just insane.
I remember that episode so very vividly.
So vividly.
And I loved it. Like, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, the funniest part of that episode is that, like, I didn't, at the time when they were doing this whole drink escapade, I didn't know what was going to happen in that episode, specifically the hallucination. And if I had, I would have asked about it. There's, like, so many questions that I have about it.
One of the best scenes in the whole show. I was going to say, I love that Caroline is, like, hearing all of these things that, like, are spoilers but aren't, but you have no idea how they're gonna get there. Like
you're gonna, as soon as you finish the show, like re-listen to this interview and you'll be like, oh my God, that's what you were talking about. Or maybe you'll remember, and as you watch the show it'll spark something in you. But like
probably
that episode, oh my God.
That's how I justified to myself telling her about Sky. Because I was like, okay, so it is a spoiler, but it's more like a plot point, and you won't know how it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
how it happens, you're not gonna know how. Will still be a surprise.
But yeah, because like I haven't called her Sky in years.
I'm proud of myself because I have been correct about a few things that I guessed. For example, in the first episode, I guessed that Sky wasn't her real name.
That's good on you. That's good on you. Sky has quite a journey through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, she does.
I'm like very excited for you to experience that.
Me too.
She also jokingly has been calling Ward a villain like since episode 1.
Like it was like what, like 10 minutes in or something. When he said Gramsci, I was like, done. Like, it's over.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say the thing that I want to say, or should I not say anything?
I know that he's Hydra. We've gotten to that point. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm like, I will say, because it happened so early in the show, when I've tried to convince some of my friends to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I do kind of give them the preface of like, look, there are a couple episodes in season 1 that are a bit slow. But the show, I think for me, the turning point of the show is the episode like turn.
Yeah.
And I usually like say to them like, look, you can kind of skip around through season 1 if you want, but without like spoiling too much. Like obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. ties into the Winter Soldier, and in Winter Soldier we learn that like there are pockets of Hydra that have infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. And so there may be a character on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who is Hydra.
There might be. Who knows?
And for me, when that person comes to light, that's when the show starts to get like really, really, really good. So yeah. I'm like, I know it's a spoiler, but like, you knew it was kind of coming. But like there's so much more that you have no idea like how cool it gets. Like
yeah,
like if the Hydra thing is like the twist of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just hang on. Like it gets wild later.
It really does. So what was your favorite part of the job, and what was your least favorite? Like what was like great and what was kind of a bummer part?
I mean, the best part of the job, honestly, was going on set. that was the cool. I mean, like, of course, like, you know, with any social media job, like the less fun parts are like the writing, the planning, the scheduling, and like, you know, the analytics. We did a lot of analytics as well for all our shows. Analytics was definitely the worst part of that in general. And then sometimes, like, you know, there would be late nights, not necessarily related to Shield. I mean, sometimes like when I'd live tweet, sometimes it would be like, okay, I had a lot to do today. I have to like take this break for an hour and a half to do the live tweet and then schedule for the West Coast. And then I have to jump back into all these other things that I didn't finish. So that's like the boring stuff that, like, you know, nobody cares about. Fun parts were getting to go on set and really seeing how the show was made. And also just in general, I'm kind of a marketing nerd, like that's why it's my profession of choice. But I really, really loved hearing about the show from the showrunners and kind of like what they're envisioning, and then figuring out like, how do we make this something that can connect with the fans? Like, how do we come up with ways of like reaching people and engaging with people? And just like on a very like high level strategic place. I was obviously not the only person that came up with this. It was like many, many teams of people. But for my small part in it, I love to understand like the big landscape and like where we fit. And then what are the cool things we can do? Like what are fun ways to engage the cast and like the guest stars, and like, you know, how do we make this really fun? And then also like the events like Comic-Con and the parties and that kind of thing. That was fun too.
So you got to go to Comic-Cons and things like that with the cast?
I got to go to their very last Comic-Con. Kevin and Lauren went to all the other Comic-Cons with them, but I went to every WonderCon with them. So I went to, I think in total it was maybe like 4 or 5 different WonderCons, and then just the ones at Comic-Con for me. I certainly heard stories about the other Comic-Cons that they all went to. But then we'd also do like wrap parties and things like that. And it was really nice. They would usually invite us to those. So that was cool.
Cool.
That is cool. I've been waiting for, the only cast member that I have met was J. August Richards, and he is just the sweetest man. I love him so much.
I was gonna say he's like one of the few that I haven't met. Because he was like mostly season 1, but I heard great things. The thing is, like, everybody who was on that cast, even the guest stars, like, I don't know how they cast this show in a way where they really only cast great people. They were all so nice.
Just the nicest. I've been waiting for like Ian and Elizabeth or like Chloe or somebody to pop up at well, I live in South Louisiana, so nobody really comes down here. But I've been waiting for someone to pop up at a convention near here.
That would be great. I mean, they might. I don't know how much filming they do in Louisiana. I know a lot of actors do quite a bit of filming in Georgia, which is very interesting.
I know. But I heard recently that Elizabeth and her husband bought a house in Georgia.
Oh, I didn't know that. That would make sense though. Elizabeth's husband is so chill, by the way. He's like, they were so like sweet together. Like you could just tell like how much they love each other in like a really cheesy way. But like, I love hanging out with like couples like that where you're like, oh, you guys really do like enjoy each other.
They're like best friends.
They're like best friends. They're like best friends. Like she would always bring him to like conventions and like events and things like that. We did a couple like screenings, and then like he would always come to like, you know, WonderCon and Comic-Con and stuff. And so there was like when you go to a convention, like as part of like a crew, I guess, or like a guest of the cast or something, usually the first couple rows are like reserved. And so more often than not, I would end up like sitting next to Elizabeth's husband while she was on a panel. And so like she'd be doing her thing and he'd be like so proud of her and like cheering. And meanwhile, I'm on my phone, like live tweeting.
That's so cool.
But yeah, I think he's got like a travel blog where he like is a points master. And I was like
Yeah.
trying to get all the intel from him on like how to get points. And he's just like,
Yeah.
follow my social media.
I
like,
usually
but you have secrets. I want the secrets.
I usually scroll past his videos when I see them on TikTok because I'm like, I'm poor. I'll watch them later.
But yeah, exactly. I'm like,
When I get money, I'll watch your videos.
Exactly. Because I mean, it's all like like he does all this stuff with like credit card points, but like to get enough credit card points to like do what he does, you got to spend a lot of money first. So
Yeah, I'm already in enough credit card debt. I'm good. But yeah, he seems like he worships the ground she walks on, as he should.
And they're both they both just like God. They were just so were so nice. I miss Elizabeth. She was, I think, the nicest person in the cast.
Oh.
She seems just like a very sweet and genuine person.
She's amazing. Because this is a podcast, I'm gonna like air this out because I really need more of the internet to peer pressure her into doing this. Fun fact about Elizabeth Henstridge, she is obsessed with Dancing with the Stars. She loves that show. That was like another show that I worked on. And so whenever I would come on set, she would just want to talk about Dancing with the Stars. And I have told her like at least like 4 different, I think pretty much anytime she wanted to talk to me about Dancing with the Stars, I would then try to redirect the conversation into Elizabeth, you should go on Dancing with the Stars.
She should.
And she was always like, no, I can't dance. I don't know if I can do that. I just
That's
love
the whole point.
That's
and I'm
the
like,
fun part.
Elizabeth, you've seen the show. They'll teach you. And she's like, but what if I'm not good at it? Like, I'm so sorry for totally butchering her accent, but it's very fun. Anyway, she never wanted, I was like, Elizabeth, you could just ask your agent. She's like, I know, but I don't want to be on the show. I just like to be a fan. And I'm like, Elizabeth, like, anyway, I'm on a one-woman crusade to get Elizabeth Henstridge on Dancing with the Stars because I would watch the shit out of that and I would vote. I would vote for you. I hope you know that.
Wait, can you tell her that I have a song that I literally wrote about Dancing with the Stars?
What?
Yeah, it's on Spotify and everything. It's called Dancers.
Oh my God.
I'll write another one for her if she goes on it.
Did you hear that, Elizabeth? You will have a song written about you for you if you go on Dancing with the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there are so many Fitzsimmons songs just waiting to be written. Caroline,
they're coming. They're just they're baking.
They're waiting. They're jangling around in that noggin.
Fitzsimmons, best ship.
Since day one. Like, I watched the first episode and like barely even knew their names, and I'm like, those two. I want those two. I love them.
Yeah, I love that. Well, look, you can't have a show where you literally write in a ship name and then not expect them to be shipped.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is like not a spoiler, but like Fitzsimmons.
That was one of the only things that I did know about the show going in. I was like, Fitzsimmons. I already know.
Fitzsimmons.
Mostly because collectively they are my favorite character.
Yeah.
Yes. Look, you cannot choose between Fitz and Simmons.
Obviously.
They are Fitzsimmons. And they're just magical. I love them.
So beautiful. I think also this isn't a spoiler, Caroline, because you definitely have already known this, and you probably have seen like gift sets of it on my Tumblr in the past. But I recently realized that like all of my personal taste in wedding dress probably comes from Simmons' wedding dress.
Oh
I'm
God.
like, wait,
I'm dead.
Because I was looking at my Pinterest board, and then I was looking at like the episode, and I was like, wait.
I mean, I loved that moment, that dress. I don't want to get too far into it, beautiful. But like all of it was beautiful. And that was another of the episodes that made me cry at my desk.
Could not have been more perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I know you had a certain amount of behind the scenes access. So like what sort of things about the show itself were you privy to? I know you said like You got like the meeting and you got to talk with the showrunners and stuff.
Yeah, so like set visits a couple times a season, and sometimes we would go to table reads, and that was really cool.
Ooh.
Table reads were really exciting, especially since it's like kind of the first time that the cast is also reading as well. And there would be like some fun like reactions in the room. And then just like, I mean, actually the main like thing that would happen every week was besides like all the meetings and all that stuff, Marvel TV marketing would come up with a document every week for every single episode. And I do not have any of these documents, not that I'd ever be allowed to share them, but like every week we'd get a document kind of saying like, here's a synopsis of the episode, and here is a list of things that you are not allowed to talk about until after the episode has aired. And by after the episode has aired, we mean West Coast.
Yeah.
And so like there is like every week there was like a whole thing of like, okay, how do I not talk about this major plot point during the live tweet that happened? My favorite one of these documents that was like the biggest challenge. There is an episode in season 3. No, I'm gonna be as non-spoilery as I possibly can be.
Okay.
There is one episode in season 3 that stars only one of the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And this person, Marvel wanted to make it clear to everyone. So there is another person that kind of appears in the episode. But Marvel basically was like, we need you to hide the existence of this other person. So there is an episode with only 2 people in it, and I was only allowed to tweet about one of those 2 people.
Oh my God.
And I was like, how am I supposed to say anything? I'm pretty sure that the live tweet for that episode was just full emojis. It was like, oh my God, friends. Oh my God, fellow agents, did you see that? Like, I don't even remember like how I did it, but I was like, I went to my boss and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, Marvel's not going to let us say anything. And she's like, yeah, no, just don't, we're not going to push back on Marvel with this.
Yeah.
And so, and like, I understand. And by the way, I'm not disparaging Marvel. I think that they had a good reason to not want to talk about this other, but like, it made my job really hard.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I remember being very angry at the time.
Oh, me too. I also, believe me, lost my mind when I found out about it. But yeah, so that was kind of the main thing where it was like, you know, we'd have to wait a couple days before we released like a big moment or whatever, just to kind of give everybody some time. And like, also like, you know, in earlier seasons when more people were watching live, we were able to reveal a bit more, a bit sooner. And then like when streaming kind of evolved, we would have to wait a couple days to really like talk about like the stuff that starts happening. So yeah, but I think like, yeah, for the most part, that was most of the special stuff that we did.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So cool.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays, like with streaming, especially like with some of the Disney Plus shows, they like don't even wait a couple days anymore. They like post a clip as the episode, like the day it drops. I'm like, oh, hello. Yeah. Some of us have jobs.
I know. I know. And the thing, okay, the thing that like, job. My thing with all the Disney Plus shows, I have to be like really careful about what I say, because I don't work for Disney Plus, but I tangentially work with Disney Plus. But as a fan, speaking only as a fan, I don't like that all the drops are at midnight, because I want to watch them, because my job is being on the internet. I can't not be on the internet on Thursday morning. So I have to stay up on Wednesday night, every Wednesday night, to watch whatever it is they drop, because I know, because like since I don't work on any of that stuff, I don't get to watch it in advance. And it is hard. And I'm kind of honestly, I'm like, friends, if you're gonna do this, like I understand that like we're streaming Wednesday, or sorry, I guess I watched them Tuesday night. I can't.
Yeah,
My brain's mush today.
you're fine.
Yes, Tuesday night is when I stay up because they all come out on Wednesdays. The problem with streaming things on Wednesday is like, why don't you just pick a time? Like,
Yeah.
why can't we just like,
Yeah.
I know that like streaming has streamed so far that we're going back to the network model, but like it worked for a reason, man. Like
Right.
at 9/8 Central, all my Agents of Shield fans were like ready and we were gonna talk about it together versus like everybody who's like trying to watch The Mandalorian and like you know, Miss Marvel and Moon Knight are like it's like midnight and we're all like, did you see what just happened? He said hello there.
And nobody tags their spoilers anymore. Like there's no
And
such
nobody
thing as a spoiler anymore.
Exactly. And nobody tags anything anymore. Which for the record, I always tagged everything for Shields. I mean, like, no, it doesn't look very cool when you add the hashtag. Because also this was in the days before Twitter does that thing where like now you can search the phrase Agents of Shield or whatever phrase you want and it'll just populate with results. But back in those days, if you wanted to talk about something, you used a hashtag.
Yeah.
I sound so old.
No, I said
like,
in the last
in my
episode,
day.
I said in the last episode actually that like I'm so old that I used to get my Twitter notifications texted to my phone.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah.
But like the midnight drops on the West Coast are like 2 or 3 a.m. over here.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm not even gonna like maybe I'll
I'm not
wake up
even
at
gonna
6
bother.
and watch it.
Yeah. That I've like had to do recently because sometimes because I'm an old lady now and I can't stay up that late, and so like sometimes I'll watch like half an episode of a Disney Plus show and then like wake up really early the next morning to finish it. So
I was holding out hope for a Daisy cameo in Ms. Marvel, but it was not to be.
I am also holding out hope for a Daisy cameo. I feel the need to mention yet again, I have no knowledge or control of any of this, but I, as a fan, would love to see Daisy in the MCU again, even if it's like a variant of Daisy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way that I see it too.
Everybody wants to know, like, you know, will Daisy appear in the MCU? And man, I'm with you. I wish I knew. I have no clue. I used to know stuff about Marvel like when Shield was airing, but now I know nothing. So
yeah,
I absolutely like had a part of Avengers Endgame spoiled for me on accident from being on the Shield set. But
no.
That was really funny actually. And that was before Infinity War came out. So like I was kind of expecting this thing to happen that I heard about like in Infinity War, and then when it didn't, I was like, oh,
I've seen both of those movies, so you can speak freely about them.
Okay, great.
If you would like.
I can and I will. An unnamed person on the set, to not incriminate anybody, was talking about how because obviously there's time travel in Endgame and we see the Quinjet again. And so a fun piece of trivia is that when they were making that movie, they actually borrowed parts of the Quinjet from the Agents of Shield set.
That's
so that is in so that's like in Endgame because they're like, you know, Battle of New York. Yeah, so that was like, so I heard from so like this was literally like a year before Infinity Game came out, or Infinity War.
Infinity Game.
Infinity Game.
Friends, I have a lot of knowledge in here. It's just everywhere.
We do it all the time.
Every day.
This was before Infinity War came out. And so I was like, oh, wow, cool. And I think like, I don't remember if they explicitly said time travel, but I remember the Battle of New York being mentioned at some point. So I think maybe my mind jumped to like time travel and like, damn, this is going to be so cool. And of course, like we're all under NDA. So like I kept this a secret for 3 years. So I knew about time travel for 3 years. And I remember like going to see Infinity War in the movie theater and like expecting there to be like time travel or whatever. And then the you know, they all dissolve at the end. And I'm like, fuck, that was an Endgame spoiler, and the time travel is to get them all back.
Oh my
Isn't
god.
it? Isn't it? Like, because that's like the only, like I knew that there was gonna be time travel, and then there wasn't, and then I'm like, but wait, there is.
Yeah.
So, but that was like not ever like knowledge that was like supposed to be officially disseminated in any way. It was more just like, when you're talking through the hallway, the assumption is that everybody is under NDA, and we kind of all are/were. And again, this isn't a spoiler anymore because that was years ago. So I don't think I'm violating any NDAs. I hope not.
We'll protect you.
Yeah.
I'm squaring up.
I mean, to be fair, I never signed an NDA about that particular instance.
Oh.
So it was not my fault that I overheard it.
You're covered. Something else that just occurred to me, didn't Clark, he filmed Captain Marvel like around the time that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was going on.
Yes, he did do that. I don't think I knew that much about it though. I think I did know that he was going to cameo, but outside of that, like I didn't know too much. It was great though. Oh, I loved it. I think
I was so tickled seeing like rookie Coulson.
Right? I know, you know what? I'm trying to remember, this has been so long ago. I know that like we were expected to do cross promotion for Marvel movies like anytime they came out on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I think I do remember we went a little bit harder for Miss Marvel because like, I mean, Captain Marvel. Gosh, there are so many Marvels.
There are.
That's, you know what? This is why my whole job was writing things down, because I could just take a look at it and be like, nope, it's got to be this. It's got to be this.
Yeah.
I did my homework. Sometimes I would like, I have to say, like, I didn't read a ton of Marvel comics prior to S.H.I.E.L.D., but Kevin, who also worked on the show, is a full nerd. And sometimes I would be like, hey, Kevin, if I could like reference a comic here, like what would be a good thing? Or like, does this make sense in the context of like this thing I Googled or whatever? And he was always like super down to help me out. And I think Marvel probably appreciated it. So
cool.
Yeah, it's so hard to get a hold of comics too. Like, especially,
Yeah.
I mean, where I'm in small town Louisiana. And so like if I want a comic, I gotta order it off of Amazon. And even then, like some comics just aren't in print anymore or like are super expensive. And so I'm listening to a YouTube video that is explaining, I think, the most recent Secret Wars comic, because all that has just been announced, which makes the case for Daisy to come back, because hello, Secret Wars.
Exactly.
She was the leader of the Secret Warriors.
And there was also like a plot line on S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of about that.
About Secret Warriors, and it never come on, guys.
It kind of like started to happen, but it never fully reached its fruition. And
I blame the Inhumans TV show.
LOL, a TV show I also worked on.
I still actually haven't watched it.
You don't. You don't need to.
From what I hear, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did Inhumans better than Inhumans did.
Yes. I think everybody would agree with that. Yeah. You know what? The one thing I will say about Inhumans, though, is because like almost no one watched it, but I did. When I saw
Black Bolt.
Yes. When I saw Doctor Strange, let me tell you, the entire theater heard me screaming. And I was the only one. And I was losing my mind. Everybody else was like, oh my God, it's John Krasinski. And meanwhile, I am still hung up on just Black Bolt. Black Bolt is here. I called him something else internally, but that's a way longer story that needs to be. Anyway, when I saw Mr. Anson mount Blackagar Boltagon, I lost my damn mind. It was incredible.
I only like tangentially knew who he was because I didn't watch the show. But like my first thought was like, oh my God, an Inhuman. And then my second thought was, they're bringing Black Bolt in, but not Daisy.
Dude, I really thought that they would have brought in somebody from S.H.I.E.L.D. before they would have done somebody from the Inhumans. But comic wise makes sense because Black Bolt is like
he was
really
part
powerful.
Of the,
I
think though that I would have been more upset if Wanda had killed Quake.
Yeah, exactly. if what happened, like at first when all these people were appearing, I was like really upset, and then when you saw what happened to all of them, I was like, you know what, I'm fine with them not including them. But you know what, it's fine. Wanda really did nothing wrong.
She did what she needed to do, and
Wanda
if they would have just let her give Vision a funeral, none of this would have happened.
I agree. Exactly. I mean, Wanda was done dirty, and I know that like her reaction to such thing was maybe out of line, but
I support women's rights, but I support women's wrongs as well.
Wrongs. Yes, exactly. I'm with you there.
And that is also what I say about Raina.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we need to
Raina.
talk.
She's so good.
So I think you were probably on like the tail end of the Raina stuff.
I was around for most of Raina because she gets big in season 2.
Yeah. And Caroline doesn't know anything about that, but I don't even remember if I loved Raina this much on first watch, but I have been simping over Raina so hard throughout the course of this podcast.
I mean, Ruth, what an actress.
Amazing.
She got nominated for an Oscar later in her career.
She's incredible.
And you can tell why. You can tell why. Like, she is, and I think a Tony too at one point. Like, Ruth is a force to be reckoned with. It's like wild that she was on the show to begin with.
Yes, it's such a person to have on your cast.
Yeah.
And God, just probably one of the best villains on the whole show.
Totally. Oh my God, I miss her. Wow.
So what would you say like is your favorite villain on the show? If there's a way to do it without spoilers, or I don't think that there is really.
I can take my headphones off.
Hang on, I just gotta think. I have to think about that actually, because there were so many good villains.
There are so many.
You know what? Actually, I can say the same, and it won't mean anything to Carolyn yet.
Cool.
I really liked Hive.
Hive, yes.
I really liked Hive.
And that actor did so well.
Oh yeah, they did. That actor, because I was initially, a little upset when I heard the news, and then I was very happy for a season. Yeah, that's all I can say about that.
My reaction was like, really? And then I was like, okay.
But like, they had so much fun with it that it was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that this is happening. Like, I know it's I don't know if you guys ever watched the show like Supernatural.
Yeah. That's
Caroline's a huge Supernatural fan.
Okay. Shoot, I have to figure out how to say this without spoiling it, but it's something that happens on Supernatural, like quite a lot kind of happens on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, dying, coming to life.
And I was really happy that it happened to Hive.
Okay.
You don't know who that is.
Okay. All right.
God, there's just so much to look forward to. And I think that has been the hardest part of this whole podcast. I'm like, I want you to speed through the seasons, but I know we can't.
Yeah, just so we can talk about it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I think that's probably about all. Do you have anything else that you like want to get off your chest?
Okay, in terms of things getting off my chest, just to like wrap everything up, I just want to say to like any fans who like ever live tweeted with the show, like engaged in any way, like the fandom is the best part of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I like even having like a very, very, very small piece of that was like one of the best moments of my career ever. Aww. And so I just like want to say thank you to anybody that like watched the show specifically, Aww. Like when I was on it, but also just in general. And I know that like the whole cast, all the crew, like these were all really passionate people, and just having like a small part of being able to show like what they were able to do to like the larger public was really like such an honor for me. And not just for me, for all the people that worked on the marketing, the social media, anybody at ABC. Like, it really was a special show, and I hope that all the fans know that.
So good having you on. Do you have anything to plug? Do you want to plug your social media?
Let's see. My Twitter is just unhinged. It's mostly just me tweeting about politics and pop culture. But my Instagram is like a little bit more put together. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is at Tina Pollock, TinaPollocked. If you happen to find my Twitter as a result of that, feel free. It's a lot of thirst tweets about Adam Driver and politics. Specifically like left-leaning politics.
As you should.
As we should.
But yeah, my Instagram, come one, come all. It's my employer looks at it, so it's
so that's the cleaned up one.
That's like Tina with all her shit together, and my Twitter is just everything else.
Just Tina.
Yeah, it is a different handle than my Instagram. Anyway.
All right. Well, it was so good talking to you and so good having you on.
Thank you so much.
So nice to speak to you both as well. And good luck with the rest of your rewatch.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. I think we can probably all stop recording now.
Alrighty. Awesome. Okay, bye.
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 That was so fun.
That was so fun. She's so cool.